Carl Tofflemire with Porsche South Bay, and we're going to review our 2023 entrant for the Porsche Classic Restoration Challenge, which is a 2010 911 C4S Cabriolet of the 997 generation, which was just introduced to the Classic program this year. We acquired this 2010 911 C4S specifically for the purpose of using it in the Classic Restoration Challenge. It was a locally owned 32,000-mile car that was in driver condition. The challenge that we found, no pun intended, was that the car came from the East Coast. So when we got it up in the air and had a look at the bottom side of the car, it was pretty crusty. Its first stop was going out for dry ice detail. So we blasted the chassis and removed as much of the muck that had accumulated over the years as we could, and then kind of formulated our plan from there. Cleaning up the bottom side revealed a number of different components that were going to need replacement. So the majority of the suspension, including struts, bushings, sway bar links, all of those items needed to be replaced. As we went through the car, we found that each individual panel had some sort of material flaw. With the exception of the windshield frame, we've painted the entire vehicle. This is a collaborative effort from service, parts, sales, and body shop team. So it's been a really, really fun, challenging process, and I'd like to take you through it now. Unlike our challenge car from last year, the 1983 911 SC, which essentially needed total restoration, this car with its relatively low miles and driver quality condition just needed some refurbishing. One of the features that was most notable when you're exposed to the elements are these polycarbonate headlights. The lenses take a beating, they turn yellow, they get kind of a scratchy finish to them. So one of the things that Porsche certainly does have in stock is headlights, and that was the first element that kind of brightened up the car. As we talked about, we did paint on the car. The finish is meteor gray metallic, which is a very classic color. One of the major components that we added to the car was the Fuchs wheels. They're a classic design. They have a lot of exposure for the suspension components. We have the best brakes in the world on our cars. They're very much highlighted through the exposure in the 5 open spokes. So back at this end of the car is the taillight and rear end assembly that we changed out. This section on the right side was cracked and broken, while the left side was pretty hammered, lots of abrasions and nothing that we could really salvage. We have the first of the direct injected engines. This is the basis for today's 911 and Boxster Cayman series. These were also the first cars to carry the PDK transmission. So we have kind of the forebearer of the contemporary internally combusted Porsche engine, amongst the most efficient in terms of power generation, leading all the way up to our GT3 series cars, which are making well over 500 horsepower from similar displacement. As we come to the interior of the car, we had not a bad interior to work with, but it did have what was not the best effort on our part in terms of steering wheels. At this generation, we're using a push-button style steering wheel as standard equipment, while most other manufacturers that used a sequential shift system had paddles. So our sport steering wheels, which this car didn't come equipped with, had that feature built in. This year was our second time entering the challenge, and it really is an interesting exercise in bringing your team together. It's a little bit outside of our wheelhouse in terms of going through the cars extensively. As a rule of thumb, we're doing maintenance work to most cars, not doing restorations. And it also helps us focus on the prior generations of Porsche, which is critically important for a brand that has over 70% of their vehicles still on the road. Porsche has done a tremendous job in terms of training and providing parts. We're reissuing somewhere over 200 parts, sometimes as many as 300 parts per year of various needs, and that comes through this classic program. Not many manufacturers have anywhere near that number of vehicles on the road today as we do, and by the same token, most cars depreciate to zero. So there's no need to really, as a manufacturer, focus on replacement parts for cars that are worthless. Our cars, as you know, can be worth millions.